Hey guys, Chris Dyck here. Today we're going to continue on with the SharePoint series for project managers. And what we're going to work on is the timesheet feature. And there is no out-of-the-box feature for creating a timesheet. So I'm going to show you how to do one from scratch today. Now there's a few things out that we want to think about. In our last video set, we focused on the task list. So this time we're going to look at how we would integrate our task list into our timesheet. And most importantly is to understand the hierarchy of how tasks work here. So in this case, API is what's called a deliverable. Okay, it's a project in and of itself. So in between the whole project, it's a sub project. All right. And what we have underneath that is software development lifecycle phases. So with this one here, we have our requirements phase, and the actual billable task is called requirements document. So this is something that is going to be billed against. You'll notice that it has budgeted hours. So in other words, someone should spend no more than 20 hours on this document. All right. And it's important to think about how that works because when we when we bill against a task, we don't always do the task all at once. Sometimes we'll do a couple of hours here, a couple of hours there, and it's done all in the same, all against the same billable item. Okay, so what we're going to try to do today is create some timesheet entries that will bill against a few of these items. All right. Now, let's go into site contents. We're going to get started on building a timesheet. Okay, now a timesheet is quite simple. It's a list, and as I mentioned, there's no out-of-the-box feature for timesheets, so we're going to have to build it from scratch. So we go to the new drop-down and we select list. Now, what it asks us for here is a name, and we're going to call this timesheets. And by the way, I'm following my tutorial here, so if you just go over here and copy it, you can easily just paste it in and get up and running with exactly the same names. It's better to do that. That way you know that you're getting exactly what I'm teaching you. Now, notice that when it starts here, the only column that we have is title. All right, and title we'll make some modifications to it because in the timesheet sense, we're not really looking for a title. We will have comments, but title is really ambiguous. So we'll make some changes to this so it has a specific function. Now. There are a few changes that we're going to do to this list so that it functions a little easier and a little bit more clean for some of the parts that I'll be doing later on. I'm going to switch this list over to classic mode. Okay, now classic mode, if you look at the way our task list looks here, has a very different look. It has tabs across the top, okay, whereas our timesheets do not have that. There's a very different toolbar across the top, and in fact, there's a lot of features that are hidden away here that we need to make active. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to adjust the list settings. Just click on the gear icon at the top of the screen and click list settings. All right. The next step is to go to the advanced settings, and you're going to go down and find the list experience section. All right, we're going to select the classic experience, and then you just click on OK. Okay, now you won't see the change until we go back to the list, but we're still going to make a few changes here. We're going to now go into the version settings. Okay, and if you're following along here, you'll see that we are at this point right here in the tutorial. Okay, the tutorial now says create a version each time you edit an item in this list, and I suggest that you use yes. Okay, find the keep the following number of versions is going to be up to 50. Now you can have less, you can have more. It doesn't make any difference, but as long as you've got a significant enough number that you can keep track of these versions. Believe it or not, some people can modify these entries quite often, mostly by in error. But it's good to keep a track of the version history so that you can go back and see what has changed in each one of those versions. So let's select OK and apply those changes. Now we'll go down here again, and we're going to change the column, the title column, to a calculated value. Okay, and a calculated value means that you can have a formula much like this. Now this formula here takes the string of timesheet with a space and concatenates the value of now, which is a date time function, and then the text function will then apply a formatting of of a more standard sortable format. Okay, and we're going to use this here because it'll allow us to do some sorting on our list if we keep the title the same format. Okay. Now you may not always keep the same format. You can always overtype that format, and it won't make any difference otherwise. But this is a good way of thinking of it here. We don't have to change the title name. Okay. You could apply a description, something that explains how to use it if you like. It's definitely worthwhile doing that. We're not going to do that just yet. We are, however, going to change the calculated value to this one here. All we have to do is go over here to this gray area and click copy and paste it in. Okay, and that's it. We just do that, and now we have our list fully functional with our title. Okay, let's just go back over here and see what happens now. Okay, notice we're still in this in the new experience. If I now do a refresh, it's going to change over to the classic experience. So you can see there's a very different look over here. Now, what we're going to look at here now is what did that change, that calculated value, do? So if we click new item, you'll see that it enters a default value for us. It's got timesheet with a space, the year, month, and day. Okay, handy features, really useful, and of course this is a sortable date and a sortable format, so it will allow us to keep track of entries. So you wouldn't necessarily have to have the person who's filling this out. They wouldn't have to fill this in per se, but we're going to leave it open as a feature that can remain there. Okay, so when I click save, you'll see that it ends up as an item here. And right now it's a very boring item. There's not much in there. If we have this list here, when we click on that, I can edit the item, delete item. I can look at the version history. I can view the item in details view. There's a few other things that we can do, and we won't be getting into these features, but sharing is also really helpful, and there's a share menu item here as well. Okay. Now, I'm going to delete that item because we don't need it. Okay, we're going to start adding some more columns to this. All right, and you can go through the list area here and just click on create column if you feel more comfortable. I'm going to take the long way for us and go through the list settings. We'll spend a little bit of time here because we'll be adding a few columns. So our next column is going to be called deliverable. Okay, and if you remember from my explanation here where I was talking about the tasks, let's just load up our task list again so we can refer back to it. This API summary level task is our deliverable. It's the top level thing in the list. Okay, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to create a column that is called a lookup column, and it's going to be called deliverable. The lookup will, when you click on that, it's going to reconfigure the screen a little bit. It will require a value. We're going to get all the values directly from the high-level task list. All right. In this column, we want to display the task name. All right. We don't need multiple values because we only need to be selecting one thing that we did. In other words, each entry in a timesheet is only related to one thing. Okay. Um, the other stuff that we want to add is we're going to add in the budget hours so that it displays in the timesheet as well. Just for reference, it doesn't have a whole lot of use otherwise. And we're going to have the task name, which will be linked back to the item. So when I click on that, it will go directly over, back over to the item, which is kind of neat. It's kind of helpful. So let's click on OK. Oh, let's just also talk about the relationship behavior. Be very careful with this because if you delete a task and you've got enforced relationship behavior, what it will do is it may delete any entries that were associated with it here, and that wouldn't be very helpful for a timesheet, because a timesheet itself is a ledger. So no matter what behavior happened between before and after, it always remains the same. Once you've added that item, it should never change, and it should just remain static. So we don't want to enforce any delete behavior. So let's click on OK here. Good. And we're going to add in a few more things here. Now, I actually just realized one thing, because I actually don't need budgeted hours for a deliverable. So let's go back and make a modification here really quick, just because it's just not necessary. So let's take it away. And you notice how it's modifying. These are good mistakes to make because I can demonstrate things a little easier. So you can see now that the deliverable task name will be in the list. And we're going to keep a few of these things. You'll see that there will be some redundancies that aren't really necessary, such as this will be a little extra, and we'll make some modifications as we go. Okay. Similar to our deliverable, we now have our project phase. Okay. And our project phase is kind of important because for managing when things happen in our reporting sequences, you'll want to be able to report on what phase you're in, what deliverable you're working on, things like that. Okay, so let's click on create column again. We're going to go through that same process: project phase, lookup. Okay, enforce that we have a required value. We select the high level task, and it will be the task name, and the task will be a clickable item, and then we click OK. Okay, and finally we look at the task, and there's only one difference here with the task level, is that now we start to include our budgeted hours. These are the things that actually are billable items. So they usually are sort of the lowest level of the task list, and that would be something like this, the ones that are not bold. Okay, so let's add this column now. And again, we're going to relate that back to the task list. Okay, and I wanted budgeted hours and task. We can keep task main the same. You can show a variety of other things, but we're going to keep it quite simple there. So we'll click on OK. Now, in this column here, I've got things like description. Okay, it's a good idea to make put some descriptions to these columns because things get lost, obviously, and it's important to remember what it actually means, and you forget sometimes why you put that in there. So if I go up to here, okay, and copy that and under deliverable, I pasted the wrong one, going a little bit too fast for myself. Okay, we click OK. I'm going to make a modification to project phase as well. Okay, you've got this easy copy paste feature that you can just simply go over and paste it in easily. All right, and we press OK. All right, and then we had our task, and it also had a description, so I'll make sure that's in there too. Good. Let's click OK. Okay, so we have so far we have a title, deliverable, project phase, task, and now we move into some of the other parts where it's actually talking about assigning to a person, that this will identify who actually performed the task. So from here, we're going to create another column. Okay, it says to call it assigned to. All right, and this one here will be a person or group type. Okay, and you can see that that it reconfigures the task. The description is here. We can copy that in. It is required because a task can't be completed by anyone if it's blank. We don't have multiple selections because this task is only dedicated to one person. So if many people worked on the same thing at the same time, then you would see different entries for each person. Okay. Allow selection of people only would be what we want. We only want to find people, and we're going to look for all users. All right. Show field will be the name, so this will be the name of the person that shows up. All right. Now we click OK, and We'll go back down here. Start creating another column. Okay, almost done. This one is going to be called hours. It's going to be a number type, and it says that we require this column. So we'll make sure we have that on. The minimum will be 0.25. Okay, there. And a maximum, we can make it anything we like. I usually choose to stick to a 10, especially when we're thinking about work that we do in class. You probably won't be spending much more than 4 or 5 hours, but sometimes you do spend more time. The number of decimal places is 2. And the default value, I'm going to make that as 1. So this means that when you start your task list, it's going to automatically put in a value of 1 hour. Okay, you will probably want to change that from time to time, but at least it's one field that you don't have to fill in. So let's click OK. All right, let's see what else we have. We have the task date. So when did you actually perform this thing? All right, we click on Create Column, and we'll call it task date. Okay, this is going to be a date time, and it is required because we want to know when exactly did we do this thing. Standard format is going to be standard. We're going to be having a default date of today, so anytime we enter this value, it will automatically display today's date. And then we click OK. All right, almost there, almost there. Last but not least, we have the comments column. Now, comments are things like, we might have on this timesheet, I might say, I had some trouble here. Something that maybe that's something I want someone else to know. Someone that's looking at the timesheet can look at it and say, oh, okay, this is why you were only able to do 4 hours today. Had some system problems or what have you. But these things happen. So we have comments that allow someone else to look at our information. So we'll call this comments. It asks for multiple lines of text. Okay. And then it says required. We're not going to require this one because we don't always have to put in a comment, so that's fine. We're going to keep with enhanced rich text format. All right, that will allow you to put pictures into it, draw tables, hyperlinks, etc. All right, now we're also going to add in append changes to existing text. Okay, now this is an important one here because what we want to do is any comments that are written into the timesheet, it's almost like version capturing. So I write something and then someone else writes something. That information is captured in stone and it never changes. Okay, so that'll be very important later on. All right, so let's click OK. Now let's give this a try here. Let's see where we're at. We'll click on timesheets. All right. So what we have now is a fully functional timesheet. If I click on New Item, we're going to see how this flows. And if you remember, we had some nice descriptions here. Let's say that I'm going to work on the deliverable of API, and I'm working on the requirements phase, and I am working on the requirements document. Now, one challenge with SharePoint you'll notice here is if you're using the phases here, development and development, requirements. This is a little bit of a flaw that you're going to have to deal with. So maybe in your task lists you may name those phases so that they relate to the deliverable. So this one might be API requirements. This one might be deliverable to requirements. Okay, so we're going to select requirements document. That's the task that I worked on. Okay, and then I select my name. Let's say that I worked on it for 5 hours. All right, and I did that task yesterday. Okay, now let's say I'm going to write some comments here. Had some challenges with Word. I was not able to stylize the document properly. So just again, these are just comments that you may say to the person who is reading your timesheet. Okay, you don't need to put anything in there if you don't have to, but it's also great if you've got some kind of running commentary. Remember, I kept my title the same as it defaulted to, and that's okay. So let's click Save. Okay, so now I've got this great entry here, and if you remember here, I can click over to my API, learn a little bit more about what that is. I can look at the project phase and say, okay, what's that related to, right? And then I can also look at the actual task, and perhaps there's some more information about the task, something in the description that describes what that task is, and I can very easily jump back and forth here. Okay. For comments, if I click on View Entries, I've got all the information I need about. I can get a full view of that whole task. All right. And last, if I click on the task itself, all right, I will get the same information. But take a look at what happens here. All right. So if I click on Edit Item, you'll notice my comments are right here. Okay. And then if I have another comment, say all fixed today. All right, so I click Save, and then if I go back over here, I'm going to see my comments all fixed today. All right, and it's going to be sorted by date. So this is also something that's really important to recognize: is how is it using those comments? Okay, so we click on Close. All right, now let's add one more element to this. We're going to add one more thing, and I'm going to say I'm using deliverable 2. Okay, the project phase is, let's say it was design. Okay, and I'm selecting the second one. I just know that in the list it's sorted by ID, and it should be the second one. The task, we're going to do design task, and then I'm going to do some work on that as well. Okay, and I did exactly 10 hours. Okay, well, let's keep it today. And I'm just going to save. I don't need to say any comments there. All right, so there we have 2 tasks that are available. All right. Now, some of the other things that you may want to do is add some views to your timesheets. I'm going to do that in our next video. I'm going to add some grouping levels so that we can look at the tasks and have some sum values that say how many hours someone worked so far. And these will be really valuable for reviewing what's going on in your project. So this is the end of this video. Remember to like and share. Really love all the comments. Please remember to tell everybody about these types of videos. And if you like them, remember to push the like button. Thanks a lot, guys. Enjoy.